Pour le passage de l'équateur.
All right, for the crossing of the equator, cheers to Neptune. Yeah, it's a little warm.
La dernière fois qu'on était passé
Last
là,
we were here was on November 16th. So we're back with the head straight now, the Northern Hemisphere.
ça fait du bien.
Feels good. It marks the final stretch to Les Sables d'Olonne, but the weather hasn't been easy so
C'est pas
far.
simple jusque-là.
And indeed, it gets worse. Armel, followed around the equator 17 hours and 49 minutes later by Alex Thompson, is stuck in the up-to-their-reputation doldrums. Both men will face the best they can the Azores High, which is going to block their way at the beginning of the week. The Pacific also has its doldrums' own pacing, especially for the skippers around the Point Nemo, the most isolated place on the planet. On board Michaeline, we're by 52 degrees south. You'd think we're in the weak trade winds. It's rather nice. But here's the lowdown. There's a nice side to it, but it's also stressful because we're not going fast at all. It's a real war of nerves. We've got a high-pressure barrier in front of us, the Antarctic exclusion zone. The AEZ obviously prevents us from going south to skirt it. So we've got to cross it, and it's moving along eastwards with us. This high-pressure bubble is quite a nuisance. True, once we pass it, we'll have magical conditions, a smooth sea, weather is beautiful. We see the light of the ice floe on starboard reflecting the sun. During the night, it's absolutely unbelievable. But from a racing point of view, it's a real disaster. In the end, I prefer 35 knots winds in a depression. Ironically, the only competitor who fully appreciates his race is the last in the ranking, Sébastien Destremaux. Here, I'll let you enjoy. Enjoy this happiness. 30 knots winds, a reef in the mainsail, sunshine, wearing a short, a t-shirt. It's wonderful.
Hi guys, well, firmly in the doldrums. Had a terrible night last night. I virtually felt like I did 1 or 2 knots for most of the night and into this morning, but today's not been too bad. There's been some wind that wasn't expected, and I'm currently going pretty fast, which is good, although I'm on Port Tack, as you can see. So hopefully this will last for a while, but there's definitely going to be another slowdown before we get the northeasterly or the easterly breeze that's going to come in after the doldrums. So it's not all plain sailing at the moment. And thought we'd have a nice look at the old keel. So we have the keel, and you see the foil there as well. So full keel, obviously no foil on the other side, and yeah, keep your fingers crossed. Hopefully it won't be as painful the next 24 hours as the models suggest. Fingers crossed.
Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another Vendee Globe live show. It's Sunday, January the 8th. Today, the 64th day on the water. Coming up on today's show, we're going to be talking live to Nandor Farr as he approaches Cape Horn. We're going to be checking in with Sébastien Destremaux as he gets back in the race after carrying out repairs in Australia. And we're going to be hearing the latest from Armel Lecléache. But first, we start by welcoming my guest today, dialing in on Skype from England. It's four-time Vendee Globe competitor, Mike Golding. Thanks for calling us today, Mike.
Hi there. Yeah, good to see you.
Nice to have you back on the show, Mike. Before we get kicking off, I just wanted to ask you, Nandor Farr's approaching Cape Horn. This is going to be his 5th rounding. It's almost as many times as you've been round Cape Horn, Mike. How much of a special moment is this?
I think it's always a special moment. I mean, I think all the Vendee sailors are really delighted to get out of the deep south and feel like they're climbing back towards Les Sables d'Olonne. So it will be a great feeling and a very special moment. I think no matter how many times you go down there, Cape Horn always has something different to offer.
It can be a bit challenging though sometimes, Mike. I understand, it depends on the weather situation. You've probably had a few hairy roundings yourself.
Yeah, I've had them all. I've had quiet ones and hairy ones. I've had sort of over 60 knots from the east, strangely, going the wrong way around the world, which was perfect. But I've also had pretty much flat calm, sitting there looking at Cape Horn Lighthouse, which was pretty special as well. And I've had pretty much everything in between. Of course, it's Cape Horn is a sort of notoriously dangerous area because of the shallow water, because of the fact it's a pinch point between for the Pacific as it sort of homes down, squeezes through the gap there, and therefore boats can get into a lot of trouble there. And historically, they have.
Absolutely. Well, we'll be hopefully speaking to Nandor Farr in just a minute. But let's have a little look at how the racecourse is playing out today with our 3D animation. We're going to start by zooming in on those front runners, Armel Leclerc and Alex Thompson. There they are, just either side of the equator, wiggling their way through the doldrums. We can just see there Alex Thompson crossing the equator just after 1700 UTC yesterday. Now, 600 miles behind lies Jeremy Bayou's Maitre Coq. He's got around 400 miles to go to the equator now. And Jean-Pierre Dick in fourth. He's got the slight edge over Jean Le Cam and Jan Elias this morning. That pairing are around 200 miles to the east of Jean-Pierre Dick's boat. Now, Louis Burton in seventh, just escaping that big breeze we can see there of that Argentinian depression around 1,300 miles past Cape Horn. There's Nandor Farr. As I said, we're hopefully going to be talking to Nandor on Spirit of Hungary in just a moment. Eric Bellion moves up into ninth, ahead of Conrad Coleman. They're less than 1,000 miles from Cape Horn. Around 800 miles back, the foursome of Arnaud Boissier, Fabrice Amadeo, Alan Rura and Rich Wilson. Now, 1,000 miles more to the west, Didac Costa and Roman Anastasio are practically neck and neck in 15th and 16th. Dutchman Peter Harima on No Way Back lies in 17th place, 600 miles behind, while Sebastian Destremo brings up the rear in 18th. He's now 9,000 miles behind Armel Leclerc. Well, Mike, it's certainly an interesting situation for the leaders going into the doldrums. They're really struggling at the moment with boat speeds. How do you see this situation playing out for those two?
It's really very difficult to tell. I mean, looking at the North Atlantic, obviously it's heavily disturbed by a depression that's passing to the north of them. And that's effectively killed the normal trade wind flow. So normally at this point, as they as they get through the doldrums, when they come out, they get a pretty steady and building northeasterly flow. But that flow is disrupted. I mean, it's not to say it's not there, it's just lighter than usual. So the band of light winds that the doldrums generally represents is much wider than it would normally be and less distinct. Now that creates a problem for Armel and an opportunity for Alex. Clearly with the gap being now a matter of hours between the two boats, the ball is very much playing almost in favour of Alex because Alex is behind and therefore he can watch what happens to Armel as he progresses northwards and maybe make an alternative decision. If he sees Armel slow down, he'll have the opportunity to try to sail to either the left or right of him and try and find another way. So to some extent, Alex almost has an upper hand here, but Armel's done a pretty good job of hanging on to the lead, so I don't expect him to give it up easily.
Yeah. For those of us that haven't raced through that part of the world before, Mike, obviously you're one of the band of sailors that have. Just describe what it's like racing through the doldrums.
Yeah, I mean, the doldrums is always a concern because, normally you've got a great deal of weather information in front of you. You're able to do very accurate weather routing. The doldrums, however, because the doldrums is kind of the interface between the north and the southern hemisphere weathers, which operate differently, because it's the area where these two zones touch, it's an area where things change very, very rapidly, and the weather itself, and the wind in particular, is almost impossible to forecast on a weather model. So consequently, weather routing doesn't work quite as well going across the doldrums. So it's a random factor in your route. You know, you lay out your weather routing for the next 7 days, but the reality is the doldrums could throw a complete spanner in it. So it's an area of activity, not, I mean, people generally think of an area of calms, and that is correct, but it's an area of activity where lots of things are happening, and weather could be very, very local. So literally, it can be down to sitting on deck, looking for clouds, and trying to find breeze around those clouds to squirt you through the quiet patches.
Well, that's all to come for Nandor Far, but we can now go live to Nandor on Spirit of Hungary. Nandor, how far are you from Cape Horn?
A couple of minutes ago, I was 195 miles. This is less than 200.
That's fantastic news, Nandor. So describe the conditions that you're sailing in at the moment.
It's raining at the moment, cloudy, but it's the same like yesterday. Squalls are running. This is just kind of very special weather, which is close to the new center of the low pressure system, and the wind is all right, stronger than the forecast was. At the moment I have about 27, 29 knots of wind from northwest, and it is really good. It's easy to sail fast, but this is cold and quite bad weather. But for me, it's perfect.
Fantastic. And now, Nandor, this is your 5th rounding of Cape Horn, which is an incredible achievement. How does it feel? What does it mean to you to be going around Cape Horn for the 5th time?
I'm a little bit upset because my dream was passing the Horn on daylight, and at the moment seems to be night. I don't want to stop and don't want to slow because of that, but it's quite close, and I make a good speed. So it will be sometimes night, and I will see the Horn, I will see the lighthouse, but I don't think so. I will see the island itself, and it makes me a little bit upset. But anyway, this is the 5th time I'm here. Maybe the last one, I don't know. So we will see. But I can say in the night, hello, bye-bye, I'm Nandi, and nice to be here, and etc., etc. I will talk to the island, I will talk to the Horn, and I will take a champagne, surely. That will be a very special feeling. It is already. I feel that I'm closing, and it makes me fascinated. But I was dreaming about daylight and some sunshine and some nice weather and having a kind of very visible feast. But I'm afraid about it. It will not happen.
And Nandor, we're 64 days into the race. How are you feeling in yourself? Are you feeling strong? Are you feeling fit? Are you feeling well? How are you feeling?
Sometimes I'm running out of energy because there is too much job, and I'm not a youngster anymore. But at the moment I feel good. I'm making some trainings inside of the boat because outside is impossible to be. It is very wet. Inside I make some jogging, some gymnastics to keep myself fit. But you know, it's difficult because there is so many clothes on me. There's 5 layers of clothes, and every movement is difficult. In spite of that, of a lot of clothes, I'm quite cold. Yesterday was 6 degrees centigrade, and there is no any heating, so it is quite difficult. But I feel really good, and I'm still motivated. I don't feel any kind of negative feeling. So basically, I'm I'm really good. And during the trip down in the south, I felt it is so long, it is endless. I will never reach the Horn because the Pacific was difficult, really difficult. The winds were light and difficult to move, and I was really tired mentally. I was tired, but right now I'm here and I'm really okay. And for the next days, I can see the progress up to the north of the Falklands. I can go quite quickly, and after that I can't see now because I don't have any grip. But yes, I'm physically and mentally, and in any case, I'm okay.
Fantastic to hear, Nandor. Just wondered if you've got a few words in Hungarian for your fans at home.
Üdvözlök mindenkit! Sok szeretettel itt vagyok 191-2 mérföldre a Honfoktól, és jó sebességgel haladok felé. Egy picit csalódott vagyok, mert éjszaka lesz, ahogy odaérek, nem fogom látni, csak a fényeket, de hát ezért nem állok meg, hogy megnézzem, úgyhogy itt vagyok, és minden oké. A hajóval rendben van minden, én jól érzem magam, és hát nem sokára ott leszek ismét, 5. alkalommal immáron életemben, és hát jövök, amilyen gyorsan tudok, elég jó szeleim vannak, és lesznek is az elkövetkezendő 2-3 napban, úgyhogy jól tudok haladni egészen föl Falklandokon túlig, helyenként még túl jó is lesz, hogy a 40 csomós szelem, de nem baj, inkább legyen és haladjunk. Úgyhogy üdvözlök mindenkit innét a Spirit of Hungary fedélzetéről, és hát mindenkit ebben a szép pillanatban, mindenkit, aki engem támogatott kicsit is, mindenféle módon, azokat sok-sok szeretettel, szponzorokat, barátokat, segítő embereket, nagy-nagy szeretettel üdvözlök innét, és köszönök mindent. No, thank you very much. That was all in Hungarian.
That was all in Hungarian, Nandor, and we thank you very much. And listen, thank you very much for speaking to us today, and enjoy your 5th rounding of Cape Horn. It's a fantastic achievement, and we'll be speaking to you in a few days' time. Thanks, Nandor.
Thank you. See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Well, interesting weather situation happening out on the racecourse at the moment. Let's take a look at a few weather charts, see what's going on. We'll start by looking at those front 3, Armel Leclerc and Alex Thompson. They're in the North Atlantic now, those two. If we just take a look, we can just see that massive blue patch of light air. That's the doldrums blocking the path of Leclerc and Thompson. But things looking much, much better for Jeremy Bayu in 3rd. He's in the red there. He's enjoying a smooth run through the trade winds. But let's go 24 hours on now. We can see the doldrums, there they are, they're retracting. That's going to free Leclerc and Thompson. And but Jeremy Bayu's going to have an easy ride through there. Their next obstacle is going to be a depression to the west of the Canaries. Now, let's take a look at the Atlantic chart. There we go. Looking at the rest of the boats, we can see Jean-Pierre Dick, Jean Le Cam, Jan Ellis. They've broken free of the San Helena High, and they're now into the trade winds. Louis Burton on Bureau Valley. He's out of the big winds associated with that big low at the bottom of the screen. And Nandor Farr, Conrad Coleman, Eric Bellion, all with favourable winds, taking them to Cape Horn. Now, looking into the Pacific then, we've got Alan Rurer, Fabrice Amadeo, Arnaud Boissier and Rich Wilson down in the bottom right-hand side of the screen there, south of an anticyclone in light winds. Nice northwesterly breeze for Didac Costa and Roman Atasio there in the centre of the screen. Similar for Peter Harima, closer to the centre of that low pressure to the left, while Sebastian Destremo has good winds from the north, allowing him to dive south into the better winds from Australia. Well, we go back to Mike Golding. Mike, very, very interesting weather situation going on. We mentioned just before with Alex and Armel looking to get out of the doldrums, but they're ahead of them. Is that big low sort of forming just to the west of the Canaries? It's going to be a tough ride for those guys in the next few days.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly very stressful for Armel. You know. I mean, and obviously for Alex, but I think perhaps more so for Armel because he's been leading for so long. He's watched his very substantial lead over Alex evaporate to almost nothing. And now with a weather forecast like that one ahead of him, he's going to be, you know, in a very difficult situation. You know, it does look I mean, not only is there a gap created by the fact that this depression is kind of killing the trade winds, but it also looks very blotchy, which means that, you know, there are obviously patches of wind and patches where there is no wind, and all of this is on starboard tack. So, you know, Alex has no disadvantage in this section of the course. So, and we kind of know from watching the race from the beginning that Alex's boat is pretty good in that sort of nominal. It's quick in the kind of nominal low wind speed foiling conditions, and so Armel's got his work cut out, and it makes for a very interesting last 10 days of for the front runners. Yeah.
So while we're concentrating on the front runners, you know, all the attention's on Armel and Alex and the race that they're having. All the meanwhile, Jeremy Bayou is sneaking ever closer, just blasting along in the trade winds there, and it looks by the time he gets to the doldrums, there might not be any doldrums.
I'm surprised there hasn't been more commentary on the fact that potentially he could close that gap up. You know, with the weather forecast like it is, he could close that gap up, and even the guys behind have kind of an opportunity. I mean, I saw Jean-Pierre. Obviously, he got caught by Jean out to the east of him. But you know, if you actually look at that on the wind ladder, Jean-Pierre is much further down the wind ladder coming north. So I think Jean-Pierre is in a better position than the distance to finish actually shows. But you know, all those guys have an opportunity here because the weather forecast for the North Atlantic is so disturbed, so unpredictable.
Yeah, I mean, fantastic that we've been talking about those two front runners for pretty much the entirety of the race. Now there's a third sailor involved, and actually Jean-Pierre Dick, well, we must remember, he has a foiling boat as well. So it could well be that we see we see him coming up there. One more thing we must talk about, Mike, before we go. Alex Thompson's time from the equator from Cape Horn up to the equator was about 14 hours quicker than Francois Gabart's last edition of the Vendee Globe. I mean, Alex is along with Armel, the two of them are breaking pretty much every record going at the moment. Are we going to see the entire race record broken in this race?
I think it's almost certain. I was quite interested in the designer's comments yesterday with Guillaume Verdier was on, and he did say something. I mean, Andy was kind of saying, "Oh, the foils are so much quicker," but he did say something in amongst there that he did wonder how much was to do with the new hull shapes and the fact the boats were slightly lighter, and that was kind of rolled over rather in the interview. And I would have loved to have picked up on that and pushed that more, but clearly the boats are quicker this time round, and clearly the foils have had an impact on the race. But also, this race has enjoyed pretty spectacular conditions, certainly for the first 4 weeks of the race. It was spectacularly good conditions for the race, foiler or non-foiler. It was great conditions. And it's rather a shame we haven't got any PRBs or SMAs to kind of hold the foilers to account rather better.
Yeah, fantastic to watch. I'll remember to give Andy a slap on the wrist for not asking those questions, Mike, next time he's back in a couple of weeks' time. But it's not all about the front runners. Let's take a look at what Sebastian Destremo has to say. He's back in the race. He sent us this video. Have a look.
Welcome to the office. Wow, we're back in the race. After 3 days of pit stop in Tasmania, behind me, we're waving goodbye to Tasmania, Hobart and Port Esperance and all these people there. Lovely people. Lovely people. I must come back. Fantastic stopover. 3 days of hard work. Secure the boat. Done so many things on board, so many jobs, but I'm glad we did, because now it's done, everything is done, and we're back into the race. We still have a small job to do, well, a big job, but you know, it won't take long, but up the mast. But it was this morning, the opportunity was there to, at daybreak, to get out of the channel. The wind was in the right direction, so I decided to go.
Well, that pretty much brings to an end another Vendee Globe Live show. Many thanks to Nandor Farr for dialing in from Cape Horn. And of course, thanks, Mike, for speaking to us again, providing yet more expert commentary. Thanks very much, Mike. We'll speak to you again soon. And, well, it's not there anymore to say goodbye to, but we'll say bye anyway. Join me same time tomorrow. I'll be joined by double Olympic silver medalist, Volvo Ocean Race winning skipper, Ian Walker. Until then, we leave you with this video of Armel celebrating passing over the equator into the Northern Hemisphere. Goodbye.
Une dernière petite bouteille de champagne. Et voilà. Il fait chaud et ça mousse un peu. Pour le passage de l'équateur, trinquons avec Neptune. Ah, il a un peu chaud. Un petit coup pour le bateau. Et un petit coup pour notre ami Neptune. Voilà. Bon bah il ne reste plus qu'à sortir de ce poteau noir. En espérant qu'il n'y ait pas trop de calme et que la météo soit plus favorable dans les prochains jours. Allez, bonne journée à tous, à bientôt, bye bye.
Bonjour, il fait chaud, près du Brésil et plutôt des bonnes nouvelles. Le bateau glisse bien, plutôt plus vite que mes deux concurrents Yann et Jean qui sont à mon vent. Donc pour l'instant tout va bien et j'étais un peu dessous, j'étais un peu angoissé. Un angle plus réduit pour aller jusqu'à l'équateur, mais tout a l'air de bien se passer pour l'instant. Donc wait and see bien sûr, mais bon, du bon pour l'instant.
Donc voilà, le Jenak est dans le cockpit, je vais vous montrer ma grue. Donc là il est en pendant, accroché à la grue. Voilà, pas fastoche histoire. Alors, allez mon pépère, le petit Jenak. Vous savez comment il s'appelle ce petit Jenak là? Il s'appelle Fanche. Il y a le petit René et il y a Fanche. Donc voilà ma grue. En poudre de rigueur, comme ça j'ai plus qu'à wincher et hop, le truc qui va dessus et puis voilà. Toujours notre Fanche, petit Jenak. Et ben voilà une phase intéressante. Donc le petit Jenak est suspendu, donc ça ne craint rien du tout. Vous pouvez éventuellement assurer l'arrière pour que quand vous allez choquer le bout de la grue, eh ben, il va s'allonger directement et se mettre à côté de son voisin. D'ailleurs, son voisin, c'est le petit René. Je vous ai parlé de Fanche et du petit René. Donc voilà, bon, allez, à plus. Et voilà, le matossage est terminé pour ce qui est des voiles, après le reste. Donc on voit bien, là, petit René, donc je l'ai parlé tout à l'heure. Donc, petit René, voilà. Et là, donc petit René là, et puis là, bah, Fanche qu'on vient de matosser. Donc René et Fanche, liés pour la ville, hein, pour faire du rappel efficace. Merci René, merci Fanche, à plus.
Hi guys and girls, so we're talking food. Thought I'd show you some of my food that I'm eating. This is a real Termat freeze-dried meal called Lapskois, which is a beef and potato casserole. And if we have a little look inside, you can see that it looks like something you might give your baby to try and wean them onto solid. So there are some solid bits in there, there's a bit of meat. So yeah, but what this meal needs to really give it some juice is some Leon Perrins Worcestershire sauce. So let's turbo her up. There we go. Now she's ready to eat. Not too bad, this one. It's one of my favourites. So this one is a good old shepherd's pie, and it actually is quite delicious. It's very potato based, as you can see, but it actually does taste a bit like a shepherd's pie. But this one also definitely benefits from a touch of the Lee & Perrins Worcester sauce. So a few drops in there, and we're ready to eat. So for a little snackette, we've got some Spanish jamon. It gets a bit sweaty in the tropics, but boy, tastes great. And this one is the lamb casserole, the lammengrøt in Norwegian, and inside we have, okay, it's mush. Now this one also requires a touch of Lee & Perrins Worcester sauce, and we'll be there. So this is one of my favourites, as you can see clearly. It's spaghetti bolognese, and actually this is one of the ones where it actually looks like what it says on the tin. It's great, rehydrates really, and this is actually my favourite meal. But you know what it needs? It needs a little bit of parmesan, and that really makes it good.